Salutations, utopians. Hope all is well in your world. Global here. As you all know, we launched finally. The NFL season has began. WNBA is full steams ahead in the playoff race, getting that formation for the top 8 seeds. Quiet off season in the NBA, just seeing a couple players retire, some contract extensions, but slow motion for the most part. However, yesterday, uh, WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert went on CNBC, and she was asked about the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese rivalry, quote unquote, and it has caused an uproar. And I think it's important we shape social issues when there's an opportunity, because I do believe sports is a heavy part of the makeup of our society, and it's important that any chance we get not to fear of taking sides or losing people, because nothing gets solved in as a world, and we can't heal as a society if we don't attack the uncomfortable discussions. Okay, nothing ventured, nothing gained, as the old adage goes. And so she was asked about the Clark versus Angel Reese battle, and she referenced the 1979 showdown between Bird and Magic. Um, she quote unquote claimed there needs to be a rivalry. I'm paraphrasing everything, by the way. And also that she cited the pressure of corporate partnerships and the importance of keeping them satisfied. And as you all know, I've been quite outspoken about the influence of corporate influences. We see the NBA walk that tricky line, NFL as well. Anything where the money's involved is going to be tricky. Everyone's trying to vie for their position and their visibility in this entire ecosystem of sports and entertainment. With that being said, this has been a great responsibility. Record-setting numbers across the board. ESPN reports this is the highest rating year ever in the history of the WNBA's 25 years of existence. Cathy inherited the title commissioner, which originally, up until her appointment as the commissioner, was called, and her job title was referenced as president. She's the first appointed commissioner with that title. And she was hired in 2019. So the W switched gears in the 20th season and made her the commissioner. And prior to that, she was the first woman CEO of a Big Four firm, which deals with mostly global accounting revenue. She's one of the more. She was a part of one of the highest grossing firms in the world. And one of the big questions in that CNBC interview was, how do you walk and navigate that fine line between race and sexuality, so to speak, and with the fans, who kind of veer away from basketball and want to use it as a platform. And it rubbed a lot of people including the head of player personnel, with her statement, because it sounded very capitalistic. I think Cathy, it's like the Phil Jackson thing, even though Phil has had quite a few people that have questioned his, his views on race, and have called him a racist in years past. And I don't think he is. It's kind of in the same vein. Cathy, I don't think meant to come off like the way she did, even though there was some very thorny moments, like the rivalry comment. She just seemed very cutthroat and cold-hearted. And the line of work that I do to pay my bills, this doesn't pay my bills. This right now is just a leisure and a passion for me. I meet a lot of CEOs, and the common ground with them is this. You can tell, even if they have wife and kids, or husband and kids, the top is lonely, and you have no allies at the end of the day the higher up the ladder you go. And the common trait I can always tell when I'm dealing with a very high level CEO is that they're very even keeled, very upbeat, light energy, very non-committal on any views and opinions. And Cathy went in there trying to show her humility, I think, tried to display a level of humility and down to earthness that just realistically is impossible when you have so many hands in the pot, as she alluded when she talked about the pressure of corporate partners. I talk about this all the time, how much influence Nike has in the NBA. And I tell this to people all the time, and I know it's easier said than done, but for the sake of um, the quality in the sacrament of the leagues that you have, you need to make sure that at all costs you let the brand do what the brand does, and whoever wants to invest in that, so be it. Not to be ran. Don't let the brands run you. Don't let the sponsors run you. You run the sponsors. You want to sit at the table, cool, but you don't go influencing things. And what's going on is sometimes they are not happy with the speed. Jeff Teague made up a really great point on his podcast in regards to Caitlyn. During the middle of the year, her buzz was starting to die down, and they used Angel as a prop to try to reignite um, the rivalry when they realized that the buzz wasn't as exciting as it needs to be, and when Angel was thrown into the furnace with that whirlwind of attention, suddenly it had raised the allure again, and both of them just coincidentally started to amass a large amount of statistics that had historical impact all time. So now Angel is out with a wrist injury, so that's going to kind of table the Roy discussion, but it's actually living proof. That's why I say that it should be co-rookie, because there was a time in the year where the people kind of cooled off and they needed her name, and people act like Angel did not outsell all her jerseys. People act like she did not sell their home games. People act like this didn't start at LSU. And so, now she's in this backlash, and she issued a public apology. And I want to read it to you because the word selection raised more eyebrows than it helped. During a recent media interview, I was asked about the quote unquote dark side. I always hate when people use light and dark as a reference to good and bad, or bad and evil. I mean, good and evil. It just, when it's just, you guys had time. And it's one thing if you just say it off the hip, but when you're issuing a public apology and you're answering certain questions, it was just kind of really cringe. Like, you guys all sat at the table and you couldn't come up with anything better. This is why I don't look up or ever glorify anyone just because of job titles or status, because at the end of the day, people can still be stupid and idiots. And I'm not calling her that, but it's just like, that doesn't mean you're smart. You just had the right connections. Because how do you have all these people in a room and you choose to reference social media, the dark side of social media? But anyways, an online conversation about WNBA rivalries. Let me read it from the top after I just cut that off to bring that up. During a recent media interview, I was asked about the dark side of social media, an online conversation about WNBA rivalries and race. To be clear, there's no absolute place for hate or racism of any kind in the WNBA or anywhere else for that matter. The problem is you made it be clear abundantly that that's definitely a form of how the WNBA makes its money, playing on the emotions of unfortunately historical oppression that has been had in this country. And though I don't think she meant anything by it, she definitely came off very insensitive in that moment. And so now the W's at this standstill. I still maintain the same thing. They should just co-rookie the W award, the Roy Award, and moving forward, just to get through this season until Paige can arrive, and then Juju after that is when I think the league will really gain legs. The two added extension teams will be there now. You got Golden State Valkyries, and then the year after that, I think it's the Portland, who's still trying to figure out what their nickname is going to be. The global consensus is just go back to the original name, Fire, because they were already a franchise. I'm not really sure if I'm a huge fan of that market. But if that's what they're going to do, so be it. But I think, Paige is integrated vertically a little bit different in the culture. I still don't understand that $28 million they invested in Caitlyn. No reason to put her on a pedestal. It's only going to raise more eyebrows and more disdain. And here's the thing about with Caitlyn too. The irony is the people that want to name her on the Olympic team, which let me remind you, Rashad McCants brought up a real great point on Gil's Arena. Well, Lexi Steele did, and Gilbert, when Rashad McCants said she should have been on the Olympic team. You put her on the Olympic team, they wouldn't be on the run they are right now because physically there's just in no way that she would have been able to endure uh, the Olympics and this. And during that 2 weeks, they really used that time to train. They really used that time to learn the playbook with Christy Sides. And I don't think they could have done that if she's off in another country, being you being playing meaningless minutes when you know the gold is pretty much in the bag. It's been in the bag for over 100 consecutive games for the Olympic women's team has gone without losing a game, which is like 3 or 4 Olympics. And so you know, that then saying, oh, she needs to be Roy and she needs to be MVP. Like people, the irony when people say stuff like that, you're just trying to get her in and out of here. This is that immediate microwave society we live in where we just got to hand her everything. There's no way you can say a rookie is the best player in the entire league already. Not to mention she's still been a turnover machine regardless of how much they've emerged on the scene and played a lot better. It's just kind of crazy to me. And so I know people are excited. I know that this is a exciting time for the league, but it's absolutely we got to channel our expectations. And I'm not saying that Rashad wants to see the WNBA, just wants to see them chewed up and spit out. But when people say things like, oh, she should have been on the Olympic team, she should have been Roy, she needs to be sole Roy leader, she needs to be the MVP, this is where you lose people. Because in the people like Cheryl Swoops who are being objective and you're trying to push them out when the whole time they're actually preserving the game. If there's no history, there's no game. If there's no homage, there's no game. It should not be who's the next shiny toy. It should be like you're included in the sorority. That's what creates the sanctuary. That's what creates the holy matrimony of the distinguished history the game represents, from the past and the present. And so when you go out there and you try to just act like this is the newest and improved thing, first of all, in marketing, it's always discouraged to say new and improved because, just means a new set of problems. Anytime you do something, it's a new set of problems. Nothing's ever better than before completely. And there's nothing she's doing, as I've alluded to in the past, that you can just say is so much better. So I think we just need to channel and table that type of rhetoric because it's harming more than it's helping. W's in a great place. Cathy Engelbert, I don't know if she's going to be able to weather this storm. I think it's setting up to an eventual replacement to someone who's a little bit more recent in terms of playing in the league. There's been rumors of Nneka Nweke and Seattle would probably inherit that title. Someone who's kind of playing similar to how the NBA PA does it. Right now, CJ McCollum. In years past, it was Chris Paul who held it down for a while. And so it's normally a player who's active in the league. Maybe that's what ends up happening. Then again, that's a commissioner role, not a player. I'm thinking NBA player personnel leader. But maybe it's just somebody who's closer to retirement, is ready for that pivot. A lot of these women are highly educated, multiple degrees, and so they would be very qualified. It kind of looked like she's a little bit detached from the game when she made these type of comments because it is extremely diverse, and to make that type of statement kind of harmed the greater good in a sense or came off like insensitive. I don't know how they're going to handle this, but I do know the W is doing their best to try to make things appeasing to everyone, and it's a very tricky lane to navigate. I'll try to do better next time, Utopians. All the best. Global. Out.